Thank you, Tommy. Pleasure to be here. Nice to see you all. As mentioned, my name is Timo Perkola. I'm leading the technology consulting for Deloitte here in Finland. I'm sure that some of you, hopefully all of you, have heard about our company, but maybe shortly about that one together with some of the technology trends. We are, or more or less, I would say, we are an advisory company in a local market. I have a 70 people team, and we are really focusing on advising the technology leaders on where to go with digital, where to go with the overall strategies, but also how to implement different solutions. But that's backed up by quite a few of my colleagues, 70,000 in consulting plus a few 100,000 in other areas of our business. And that also means that we do quite a lot of research around this topic. And one key takeaway from that one is actually that there are quite a few technologies, technology trends, or things that we expect to become trends that are really affecting on how we should be doing, what we should be doing. And maybe my key takeaway from this day might be that there are so many trends that taking and tackling them one by one is something that I really don't believe that is doable. As an example from this one, there is a whirlwind behind me, which is actually a summary of our technology trend study. That's a study that we've been doing for 10 years, evaluating what are the global trends that are taking place in the market. And those are the ones that we've seen coming or going. For example, cloud, we talked for a long, and I think now it's been with us as a normal for a few years. But again, we are expecting to see, for example, the quantum computing, brain-computer interfaces, or whatever that is. I think nobody of us really expects or understands what it might mean for our businesses, but those are buzzwords we are talking at the moment. And therefore, I would say that the most important part in this one is actually to start thinking on what kind of big changes or big shifts you would like to make on your organization, on your own thinking, on the ways of working that really makes you more able, more ready to tackle the variation of different technology developments and trends also in business and business models. Digital might be one of the key kind of overcovering words around this one. And for me, that actually also means how to move from exploring or thinking around those technology trends on doing something with them. And that's doing actually is, by the way, something I think we all are at the moment at. So I think at least our clients, we ourselves in our business, we really do a lot on thinking on how the new technologies are used in our business. But I'm not actually sure if all of us are becoming or already are really digital. What I mean with being really digital is that to me, affects also the business models, the operating models, the organization on how you want to run the business, and not only the technologies behind or around or enabling that one. For example, a subscription-based models in you might say traditional manufacturing or industrial equipment business is something that is really here and actually should be affecting the whole business model of a company. For example, if you take a business-to-business sales guy who has a sales quota of selling physical things, asking them to sell subscription-based services on top of that one, it actually changes on way they should be incentivized, way they should be supported in terms of tools and products and services and descriptions. And also it changes on where the client should be supported in terms of you actually start to get connections and contacts from customers directly. One example might be the Philips Hue. If you have those light bulbs at home, you might recognize that this is actually a product that you use to light up light up your house with the Wi-Fi. And that's actually a product that's from a traditional business-to-business company. It's a direct customer product for which I happen to know they had to develop a whole service model to take on the calls that the customers are directly calling them when they have problems, and all the processes and methods to actually solve that one. And that is what I mean with the different business model and actually being digital. And by the way, on that one, it's now its own company from Philips. It's now called Signify, and actually its own business, since it's really different on the other areas of it. When it comes to those traits or key facts, or maybe a kind of summarization of 3 topics that being digital means for us, it's speed, it's repetition or ability to repeat and return back, and it's scalability. And these are the ones I'm going to get back today and try to kind of open up the thinking on how does it look like in terms of maybe trends or big shifts or something that I suggest you to think about in the future on how you adapt your organization and thinking on that one. But that really starts from actually from the fact or opinion, you might consider which one it is, that how we currently think, especially when we think about the traditional ways of service-oriented IT organizations that quite a few of our technology leaders, namely CIOs especially, are running, how we've usually organized that one, and how it's kind of a mismatch for being rapid, being scalable, and being able to learn from your mistakes fast. I'm not saying it's wrong, actually. Service-oriented or service-based organization is a really good platform to also be able to ensure that everything is working as it should be. But it's only a foundation. To me, it's only a foundation, and it's not going to be a solution for more innovative things, if you may. And therefore, the 9 big shifts, if you may, they are something that are interlinked together, something that relate to ways of working, something that relate to kind of resources and people you have, and something that relate to also kind of the larger technology trends or technology affections in the market. And if we think about how we have structured them, is that around the speed and rapid development, we have things like a couple of trends, one from the blue, one from the green, which really support us in actually making things better around the digital experience. Maybe you might say, if you want to be trendy in the future, you might even say digital reality, but that's really about the digital. You want to be rapid on your customer front. When it comes to the ability to repeat, ability to get back and readjust, those traits or virtues come to play, especially when you talk about data, since that's something that really strong data allows you to make conclusions on what you've done and actually adjust your thinking around that one. And then the scalability is really about things that enable you to be better when it comes to the platforms, not only technology platforms, but also the business platforms. Those hopefully go hand in hand. But if you think about, for example, a whole idea of a smart building, it's not about the technology, it's about the whole ecosystem and the whole business around that one. So not only it comes to what kind of technologies you need to develop a building that is full of things that help us living more comfortably in our homes. So that's something I want to talk today, and to open up our thinking a little bit on those 9 big shifts, especially the 6 ones, which are kind of the ones related to business of technology. And I'll start with the first one, being around the speed, being around the ways of working, and on this one, I'm sure that all of you are familiar and already are living and breathing, or have explored and experimented with Agile, with DevOps, kind of virtues of that one, being autonomous teams, being faster, being end-to-end responsible. But the thing I want to point about this one and why I want to do is especially because I want to make sure that that it is also a more of a change in thinking and not only kind of repeating on the patterns or processes or dogmas of today. Is actually about the appetite to experiment and maybe take risk. This is something that I've at least found that is maybe not common in Finnish business culture. I am an engineer. I'm sure that there are a couple others also in the room, and we tend to take pride from getting things done end to end. So if we promise something, we definitely want to keep that one and deliver until the bitter end of it. And experimenting, trying new ideas, it sometimes feels that it's not exactly on those comfort zones of some of us, including maybe myself. But that's something that I really think this is about. So making sure that there is room, making sure that there is a culture that really fosters the possibility to learn from pilots, or experiment is probably a better word, and basically build on those experiences. Second one, again around the ways of working, but definitely also around how to use that data to enable the decision making, enable getting back and repeat fast on what you've learned, and use that one, is then the kind of a whole ecosystem. The ecosystem of not only thinking about your company, but thinking about what you have around you in terms of partners, what you have around you in terms of competition and maybe disruptions, whether they are technologies, whether they are business models, whether they are somebody that is going from a very much different angle to your business and try to tackle that one. And I'm sure that all of us have those, and definitely think that, for example, Fujitsu has reinvented themselves since for example, the cloud has really changed the way that the IT business is run as a business in the scale that Fujitsu does it. And that really comes to the how you use and take the different ecosystems in use. And for example, there might be very many different kinds of entities or companies, individuals, universities, and others that are part of an ecosystem. We've studied this a bit. We've done some projects, for example, with Citra on how you create value with ecosystems. So I think, in general, the interest towards how to make this win-win-win for all is there in most of the companies. But the actual value and business case is case by case. So we are yet to come up with a silver bullet. I'll let you know when we have it. But I think this is something that more and more companies are eager and interested to learn and think on how we could be utilizing, for example, startups or universities or other people around us that can help us and are interested in working with us. And it's also a brand game, I would say. There are quite a few companies that use this also to attract talent towards them. And then the third one is actually also related to ways of working. And this is maybe something that my personal, maybe a favorite, if I put it positively. We are talking quite often about the business in IT. But I would like to say that it's a term that is not any more useful. I wouldn't like to see there being a difference between business and IT. What I mean with that one is actually that all of the people should be, well, tech fluent in understanding the possibilities of technology, making sure that it's done. It's taken into account whatever kind of a development or whatever kind of a project or whatever kind of an operations that is. And if I take an example from my company, we have around 70,000 consultants around the world, and we are running a large tech fluency program for our own people, that whether they are actually specialists in procurement processes or whether they are specialists in HR development, they would still be very much fluent and able to discuss about the effects of technology trends to their clients and their area of specialty. And that's actually been something that has been started because our clients that we talk with really kind of ask those questions every time, everywhere, not only within the technology, but all around the business and functions. And that's why I want to make a point that making that distraction or difference is not how it should be. And another topic is then that how you kind of can expand or how you can build up that understanding in the companies. One good way might be kind of a center of excellence type of an idea. And what I mean with that one, and if I take really kind of a traditional technology-driven example, cloud might be one. We all know that it's an important topic, and we all know that it changes the way how we would like the technology to be utilized. But quite often there are a lot of questions related to that one. There are changes on how it should be articulated to programs or to business leaders of different areas who are responsible of the profit and loss and investments. And one way to actually help that one is to create some kind of a center of excellence. Yes, you need there then a kind of technical expertise, but I would say you need there also enthusiastic people that are eager and willing to coach colleagues on the possibilities and be there to help, not to kind of be right or not to kind of say that this is the only way to do it, but be really collaborative and be really kind of the missionaries, if you may, for the specific subject. Cloud is only an example of this one, but there might be others which are kind of things that you would like to see being used across the organization, and in those ones that might be a way to actually use and leverage that and spread that information. A couple of more about the jobs and competencies, about the resources you need to have. This is actually it's actually about the people, what kind of people you have, and it's also about the organization model you might be. I was not going to stick to the organization model. You've probably seen quite a few discussions about the teams, how they should be self-sufficient, how in agile world they would need to be ability to decide on themselves, etc. But maybe more on the kind of talent that we are seeing being the most important in the market, and what we are seeing being sought after. This is actually based on our global CIO survey. It's a study we do every second year for well, depends on a year, but I would say a little less than 1,000 large company CIOs globally. For example, from Finland, we had last time, I think, 30 respondents. And we were asking that, what kind of skills those technology leaders are expected that are needed in the future. And you actually see there a difference between 2016 and 2018. And some topics are really highlighted, especially customer centricity, emotional intelligence, creativity. So virtues that have nothing to do with the technology itself. It goes without kind of saying that the people that are within a technology organization really need to have the technology skills. But it's really about how you work together with other people and how you work collaboratively, how you work to find new ways and applications of the technology to make sure that it really kind of sticks. And I think this then probably comes down to different job titles on different businesses, different companies, and definitely it depends on the size of the organization, etc. So, for example, how much people you can hire on a different roles, but also I would say that for all of us, at least myself included, I've started more and more looking also myself and my team that how we are able to be really competent on the soft skills also, and not only kind of the core heart and core content what we all I think believe that we are very strong at, and we need to continue to be that. Don't take that as a kind of a guidance to hide away from it, but it's also something more. And then another topic on this one, also something to do with operating models and the teams and the organizations, but definitely more about the budgets and the governance of how you then run the modern, I don't know whether you want to say organization or business or technology unit. It's about the budget, how you spread the budget, how you do the governance, and some of the key highlights I would make here and urge you to think when going forward is that where the money goes, and I think that's not the new thing, that's always been around, but this cost transformation has been something that's been around now more and more, transforming cost from existing operations, but also existing kind of development programs to more new innovations. But then also about the governance of that one. So how you make sure that you actually be able to reallocate funding for things that really you don't know what all of them will bring to you. For example, in terms of a actual return of investment. So whether it's an investment fund, whether it's some kind of an experiment, reserved money for smaller experiments which you then shoot down or ramp up depending on the first results. But those kind of allocation or transformation of cost and resources, plus also then the decision making around that one, are something that based on the same study are kind of virtues of digital front runners or companies that are ahead in digital. For example, in this picture, you might see that the middle one, the dark green, is something that has remained rather steady. So you definitely need to make sure that you develop, gradually develop on what you have in terms of investments, but then how much you can use things that you save from operations to actually innovations, and not only things that you would need to invest in but doesn't bring new business. Ones that are doing more of it are believing that they need to do still more of it, but they are already now ahead, and when then evaluated on how mature they are in terms of using digital as part of business, getting revenue streams from digital, they are the ones that are ahead. Vanguard might be a little bit of a UK-ish term for that one, but bear with me on it. And then final one I wanted to point it out, and this is actually based on a third study we as Deloitte made together with MIT Sloan in 2017, rather large study on the digital companies. We call it the digital DNA, and this has then something to do with how within a business or within a company you actually drive this kind of a change forward, what kind of characteristics there are. Maybe you can see a couple of different types of topics there. You either see a lot of vision, a lot of data-driven decision making, and a lot of kind of speed and organizational methods to use that one effectively. Or then you see a lot of interest in experimenting, trying out, exploring, and ability to decide that one on your own, on small teams, etc. Those are all traits, behaviors, patterns that we see on organizations that are then kind of counted as being ahead in terms of digital. And this as mentioned, I'm meaning being ahead that they actually are ones that are getting revenues out of that one, are developing different products, etc. With this rather large study and research, we came out with 4 categories. There are some companies that are definitely laggers. They are behind the digital curve. They might know it, but either it's not urgent to do something, or there are then other pressing issues that they takes the focus. There are the chasers. They know that they are behind. They are doing something to it. But then the ones that are ahead, there are a couple of kind of different types. There are the ones that are kind of led from the top with talent and with strategy. And if you think about, for example, from banking industry, the ING might be one of the most used examples on that one. They are something that has driven through an agile organizational transformation. Really kind of the CEO of the company has been the brains and face of that one. And they are then typically, their strategy is there, their development plans for the people is there, they think long, etc. And so they drive it kind of coherently on that one. The others, which might be equally good, equally successful, they are the ones that have then kind of empowered the individual teams and people. They empower risk-taking, exploitation. They are kind of fast-moving experimenters. So you might be a different type of a company, but there are typically then things that support each other when it comes to kind of coherent action around where you want to go. And those are the ones that really kind of stand out in terms of this one. Yeah, those were the ones that I wanted to point out from kind of 6 out of 9, and maybe the 6 ones that I wanted you to take with you in terms of thinking on how the mindset might be something that you would like to change, etc. The studies I mentioned, they are definitely all available. For example, through me, and actually you can find them online also if you want. But happy to answer those on any questions. But practically, still, before we have questions, what does it mean for a technology leader, for example, a CIO? And our take on that one is that in history, quite a few of the technology leaders have been a trusted operator. So the one that really makes sure everything is running smoothly. But that's maybe not anymore the one that business expects most. It's just table stake. You need to still be there with that one. But actually then, where I would suggest that we all should be moving is to think about how to deliver value, how to co-create with business, how to emphasize and foster that kind of cooperation where we don't anymore talk about business and IT, where we talk about how we become digital and how we want to be digital. That was all I had today in terms of a waking you up to think something, maybe.
Thank you, Timo. Let's give a big hand to Timo.
Thank you.
So who has any questions or comments? Because at least I have a couple, but it would be good to get some of those questions from the audience as well. So I can start with the questions then.
Yeah.
So if we think about the Finnish enterprise space or Finnish companies trying to be as digital as they want, do you think the Nordic or Finnish customers or enterprises are behind the others in the Europe, for example, or do you think this kind of stability or the mindset that you expressed that the Finnish audience or the Finnish decision maker is trying to be somehow stable and risk averse and so forth, is that somehow a challenge or a blocker on this journey towards a more digital, more transformational world and so forth? So do you get the idea? Are we leading or are we behind?
Are we lagging or leading? Yeah. I would actually turn it a little bit around. So it might be something that has a kind of an industry differences. So for example, the clients I work with in the manufacturing space, they are really global companies. Revenues come from China and Chinese live on a different type of an environment in many ways, including technology. So my take is that it depends on the area of business you are at. When we've studied this one, and that's also my kind of personal finding, is that that differences then, for example, between the Nordic countries or us in the whole Northern Europe, they're rather difficult to find in terms of companies. There are definitely then kind of outliers to both ends, but in general, I would say we are more or less in par with that one. How would it then look in terms of how we then do it? Probably if we talk about, for example, those fast-moving experimenters or then strategy and kind of coming from up decisions. My gut feeling, I don't have any study with, my gut feeling is that we might be more on kind of top management decides that we need to change and then start working from there onwards instead of letting people kind of experiment and move fast. And that might have something to do with our kind of culture, which I represent myself also, I think.
Any other comments, questions? Because the second question I have in mind is that if you think about if there is someone in the audience who is thinking that, oh gosh, there are so many different shifts, and Timo was explaining 6 of them, and there are even more, 3 that he didn't talk about yet. So what is the key takeaway? So if you should pick one thing, one call to action, something that person in the organization today wondering what to do next, what would that kind of activity be? What should be done at once?
I would say that start from somewhere and start from the place where you see that you have most clear kind of business benefit and value. So talk directly with the business leaders and think about which is the area. First of all, for example, if it's a portfolio of businesses, where your company would like to put the money on, where you want to invest in general, and then where in that one would be the area where you can then start experimenting with new technology on how this could work, how we could bring value, how we could figure out a new revenue stream, whether bringing in partners or whether bringing in a cloud platform or whatever that tool might be then. But start from the place that you expect that there is a most push to get things changed and most push to get revenue streams to your company.
Great. Questions, comments? If not, thank you, Timo, for a great presentation.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for coming. Thank you.